against nation and kingdom against kingdom.
Ecclesiastes chapter 4 and verse 9. Two are better than one, because they have good reward for their labor. For if they fall, the one will lift up his fellow. But woe unto him that is alone when he falleth, for he have not another to help him up. Shemai, Yasharallah, Yahweh, Allahayanawa, Yahweh, Achad, Shemai, Yasharallah, Yahweh, Allahayanawa, Yahweh, Achad, Shemai, Yasharallah, Yahweh, Allahayanawa, Yahweh, Barakatha Yahweh, Barakatha Yahweh Shai, 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 Bahashem, Ha Racha Kodash. Shalom to the hopeful elect. My name is Jeremiah, coming at y'all with another one. Before we get started, we give an infinite praises to the Most High God, okay, whose name is Yahweh. And we do so in the name of his only begotten Son, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus the Christ, okay, or Jesus Christos, or, a lot of other false names. That's not his real name, but his real name would be Yahweh Shai, okay, according to the ancient Paleo Hebrew, which means he delivers or he saves, okay. Double honors to our teachers, the apostles at Great Millstone, who taught us this 100% truth through the Holy Spirit, okay. Shalom to my fellow laborers out there, man, okay. And I kind of don't have a title for this, but this lesson is stemmed from a conversation that happened last night, okay, with me and the brothers that I labor with, man. I've been blessed, that the Yahweh Bashim Yahushai has sent me beautiful brothers in the spirit to labor with, man. Okay, and a lot of the times, man, you don't even know a spirit is on you, man, until you have a conversation with the brothers, and then you feel a relief, and you like, damn, it was a spirit. It was a spirit on me, man. Or something was trying to attack me, but through the conversation of the brotherhood, man, okay, I feel better, You see, the brotherhood, man, is a true spiritual power, man. This is why in Hebrews, the 10th chapter and the 25th verse, it says, not forsaking the assembly of yourselves together, man. Okay? Why is it saying that? Because being around the brothers, man, you have heat. Okay? And that heat is coming from where? The spirit. Okay? And when you're around other strong spirits, it makes other spirits flee. Okay? Last night I had a conversation with the brothers, man. And I texted them in the group chat afterwards. I was like, man, I said the water for that conversation. I really needed that, and then I told him, I said, you don't really know, I don't know if I texted in the group chat, but I told my brother Gabar that I work with, and I told him, I said, a lot of times you don't even know when the spirit is on you, man, until you have a conversation with the brethren, and that spirit like, damn, I can't get his ass now, and they lifting him up. Damn, man, I'll just come back another time. You just feel a sense of relief, That's how powerful the brotherhood is, man. Okay, ultimately, Yahweh Shai, Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai, has given us spiritual powers already, And being amongst brethren, you could be healed, man. You can literally be healed. This is why when we see certain brothers, man, they want to learn from us or whatever the case may be, and sometimes they straddle the fence or take a while to come around the brotherhood, and once they finally get around the brotherhood, man, their mind is blown, like, damn, this is different, like, wow, but ultimately it's really the spirit of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. I'm gonna speak about something else real quick. Last week at camp, this brother came up. He knew he was an Israelite. He was going to this church, this Israelite church. It's like a real church. They doctrine is off as hell, man. You know, he was going there. He said the spirit wasn't in there. He said, when I come around y'all, I feel energized. You know, this is not to boast about us, you know, but the spirit and power of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai, man, it'll take spirits off you, man. You know, literally. You know, the spirit of the Lord, the brothers, man, you brothers, man, you know that's holding on to this wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, man. You know, in truth and sincerity, you calling upon the right names and you're laboring for Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai. You have a spiritual power. You have spiritual powers where you can heal brothers, man, just from a conversation, man. Okay? You see? So let's go. Let's read this again. Ecclesiastes 4:9. It says, two are better than one because they have good reward for their labor. It says, for if they fall, the one will lift up his fellow. You see? You see? Because, you know, we're lifting up each other because we're walking in the same faith, man. You know? We love our brother as we're commanded as ourselves, man. Okay? We're commanded to love our brothers, you know, as ourselves, man. That's in the law. Let's get this real quick. This is Leviticus chapter 19 verse 17. It says, thou shalt not hate thy brother in thy heart. It says, thou shalt anywise rebuke thy neighbor and not suffer sin upon him. There you go, man. So what the opposite of hate is what? Okay, it's love, man. Okay? You're not supposed to hate your brother in your heart. Okay? And if, you know, your brother's going off, he did something that you know is off, man, you got to rebuke him, man. You know, and just rebuke just means correct. You know, you get him back on the right path, or you see him falling or something happened to him, man. You step up. And sometimes all it takes is a conversation, man. Maybe you know, a lot of things take more than that. But ultimately, man, you know, just being and talking and speaking to the brethren, man, you know, you certain brothers, man, they got that spirit where they you know, they hide shit a lot, you know, or they distant from the brotherhood. Next thing you know, they start to slip. Next thing you know, you don't see them no more, man, because they're in the spirit of doing it on their own, you know, want to be on their own. But some brothers, man, that's their lot, to do this work on their own, man, because they're not in the spirit to be amongst the brethren. This is not to say that you can't labor, you know, by yourself. But ultimately, man, you know, being around the brotherhood is a true spiritual power. Okay? You know, you know, when you think about it, man, we're not in the spirit of being amongst the family as much, because our true family, okay, is you fellow believers, you servants of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai. Okay, this is why we continue to do these lessons. You know, we continue to I'm gonna speak about another thing, you know. Brother, I guess you know, Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai put her in my spirit to just do a righteous rant yesterday, man, talking about how wicked this place is, man. And I'm trying to get out of here, you know. And one of my brother Sam, man, he said, man, I did the same lesson, bro, and I wasn't liking it, so I didn't post it. And he said, once I seen yours, I said, man, I posted it because it was like we were singing the same song. You know, me, Gabar, and Sam did similar speaking points in our videos, you know. And he was like, damn, he said that motivated me to put it out there, you know. And that's just how the spirit works. That's how the spiritual powers work, man, you know. And ultimately, man, we're going to be increased real soon. We're going to be increased in the spiritual power, man. All right, so yeah, man, we're just gonna get a few precepts on you know, just being there for your brethren, man, you know, lifting up your fellow. You see Yahweh Shai, he's lifting up a servant. Okay, you see, and he started to you know, he started to drift because his faith, he got scared, you know. But ultimately, Yahweh Shai was there to lift him up out of the water. Okay, and ultimately, when we're falling, when we're being, you know, tried, and we're in our faith, you know, starts to fall, or whatever the case may be, you know, the brethren are there to lift us up, man. Okay, so let's get Romans real quick. This is the book of Romans. Romans chapter 15 and verse 1. It says, we then that are strong ought to bear the infirmities of the weak. That's right, man. Okay, if you're stronger, because a lot of the times, man, some of us are stronger than others at certain times, at certain points in our life, You know, we're stronger. You know, certain of us are stronger than others. It says, so ultimately, man, you know, you have to bear the infirmities of the weak. Now, you know, see, that's what and that's what comes with being a brother in this truth, man. It's more than just, it's definitely more than just teaching and bringing out the word. You know, you have to be there for your brethren, man. You have the means to help a brother out or to lift him up when he's weak. You should be there because that is a servant of Yahweh Shai. Okay, just like the Lord lifted you up when you were weak, just like the Lord gave you understanding when you didn't have none. Okay, just like the Lord gave you his name before you even knew it. Okay, you see? So now you have to put see, we're here to be servants to one to another, man. All right, and ultimately, you know, the Lord is watching, man. Okay, you know, and we don't want to treat our brethren in the truth like how niggas in the world are, man. You can't bring that nigga spirit, okay, into this ministry. It's not gonna last. You're gonna stick out like a sore thumb. Okay, you're gonna get checked. Okay, it says, we then are strong ought to bear the infirmities of the weak and not to please ourselves, right? This thing is not about ourselves, man. All right, you see, you know, you have to have that mindset. It's not about me, you know, but the smallest to the biggest matters. All right, brothers want to, brothers want to go a certain place at the camp to get a bite to eat, but one brother want to go here, another brother want to go there, man. It's not that serious, you know. You see, it's not that serious, but this is not saying this happened with us. It just came to my mind like that's a small example, man. Okay, it says, let every one of us please his neighbor for his good to edification. That's right, man. You see, it's good to edify, man. Okay, you see, we do this for our neighbors. Okay, we do this for the elect's sake. Okay, it says, for even Hamashiach pleased not himself, but as it is written, the reproach of them that reproach thee fell on me. It says, whatsoever things were written aforetime were written for our learning. There you go, man. That's why we go to these scriptures and we apply. Okay, we go to these scriptures and we read about Yahweh Shai and how he was there and washed the disciples' feet, man. We have to be the same way towards the brethren. Okay, and it's beautiful because the Lord is actually showing us how powerful, you know, we are when we're together, man. Okay, even when we're by ourselves, man, you know, but, you know, ultimately when we're together, man, you know, the Lord shows way more spiritual things and just things are coming out that we never thought we would be able to see. We never thought we would, you know, that we would be able to see this deep, you know, those couple years ago before we came into the right doctrine. You know, the Heavenly Father has really shown us, you know, and ultimately we see how much of a spiritual power this truth really is, man. Okay, so yeah, be there to lift up your brethren. For whatsoever things were written aforetime were written for our learning, that we through the patience and comfort of the scriptures might have hope. That's right. Okay, so this is our comfort and hope. Okay, and we do the things as such. Okay, when somebody's weak and they're going through it, you know, we try to apply these scriptures, man, and help the brother out. Galatians 6:1, brethren, if a man be overtaken in a fault, ye which are spiritual, restore such as one in the spirit of meekness. Now, see, if you're a spiritual man, when someone's just overtaken in a fault, or not even just overtaken in a fault, they're just going through something, period, man. You know, you as a brother, man, you know, understand that the angels is watching you, Yahweh Shai, you know, the Lord Yahweh, okay? You know, the highest, they know what the hell is going on. They're watching you, okay? You better treat his servant as such, okay? You know, your girlfriend and shit, you know, your wife or whatever woman you're dealing with, you know, begging you to spend time with her. But a brother, man, a brother really needs your help. You know, you gotta say, man, you gotta help the servant of Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai, man. All right, help your servant, man. Help your fellow brother, help your fellow servant. You know, because that's what that's the times that we're living. We're coming into those times where, you know, all of our good deeds are gonna show, man. Okay, you know, the Lord is gonna you know, he's gonna manifest righteousness unto us for our good deeds. Okay, you see, it says considering thyself, lest thou also be tempted. That's right, man. Okay, so you have to consider yourself. Okay, you have to consider yourself when someone's going through something and you're clearly there to help them, and you just don't want to be there. Okay, for whatever reason. Okay, you could. And a lot of times, if you can't help, you can't help. But ultimately, if you can, don't you think the Lord and Yahweh Bashim Yahushai is watching? All right, and ultimately, it shouldn't be. You shouldn't just be like, "Oh, the Lord watching, I'm gonna do it." You should want to do it, man. All right, you should want to be a brother, right? Verse 2: bear ye one another's burdens, and so fulfill the law of Hamashiach. For if a man think himself to be something when he is nothing, he deceiveth him own self. That's right. We can't have in our spirit that we're anything, man. Okay, we're lowly. That's why, ultimately, man, we want to be exalted in due time, but ultimately we want to, do the righteous works of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, and then we will receive. And when I say receive, the kingdom, man. Okay, you see, it's not all about ourselves, man. It's other laborers and other fellow men that the Lord is dealing with, that they don't have the means you have, or whatever the case may be, man. But you want to be there for a brother, man. Lift him up, okay? Just like Yahweh Shai, okay? Lift it up, okay? I believe this is Peter in the water, okay? He lifted Peter up out the water, man, okay? You see, when he was starting to sink, right? So we have to take these same attributes, man, okay, and apply them to our everyday life, You see, that's why the scriptures are written aforetime for our learning. We just read it. This is the book of 1 John, chapter 3, in verse 17. It says, but whoso hath this world's good, it says, and see if his brother have need. Right, so if you're doing well in this world, and you see your brother have need, just look at it like this. If you're doing well in the spirit, it ain't just got to be even financially. If you're doing well in the spirit, you see your brother needs help, and he needs some upliftment, conversation. A lot of times, man, other brothers are easier to talk to. Some brothers are a little bit more annoying, sometimes, it is what it is. But ultimately, that don't mean that that's not a brother, man. You see, we all annoying to each other, man. I'm pretty sure brothers be sick of my talking a lot of the times. Sometimes I'll be saying certain shit. I'm pretty sure. But ultimately that don't make me not a brother. That don't make them not a brother. When if they, sometimes brothers can get, emotional. We're human, man. We go through shit, man. That's why we have to bear ye one another's burdens, man. You see, it says, but whosoever have this world's good, it says, and seeing his brother have need, and shutteth up his bowels of compassion from him, how dwelleth the love of the Most High in him. That's right. If you're not there to help your own brother, man, okay, how dwelleth the Most High in you? That means the Lord is not in you. Ultimately, man, if you have a spirit, you got, you can clearly help a brother, man, but you just going about your own fucking will. Okay, that means you just wicked, man. You don't care about the next brother. That means the Lord is not in you, because clearly you if you had any righteousness in you, you would help a brother, man. Okay, you see, so yeah, man. Lift your brother up, man. I'll just say that. Lift up your fellow brethren, man. Right? Hebrews 13:16. But to do good and to communicate, forget not. That's right. We have to communicate with one another, man. Okay? Forget not, man. Just from one conversation, man, I felt like some spirits was uplifted off me, man. One conversation. And ultimately, I wasn't even feeling no kind of way. I didn't even know I was feeling some kind of way. I didn't know I was being, I didn't know my spirit was being pressed down upon, man. I didn't even notice. But when I talked to the brethren, I felt like a sense of relief. Like, damn, it's like some weight came off my shoulder. I had a crook in my neck and shit, But I talked to the brethren, and I just started feeling better. I'm like, damn, what the hell? And I was like, damn, man, we be having spirits on us, don't even know it, man. But they flee, okay, when they're in the midst of the brethren, man. When you talking to the brethren, That's why it's great not to neglect the, the assembly of ourselves together, man. It says, but to do good and to communicate, forget not, for with such sacrifice, the Most High is well pleased. That's right, man. You sacrifice for your brethren, man. Okay, Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. Okay, he's well pleased, man. Okay, he's well pleased. Okay, so yeah, man. Lord's willing, this was edifying. Call Halayim La Yahweh Bahashem Yahawashi Bahashem Harachah Kodash. Until the next one, Shalom.